So the web development is possible by using various frameworks like Django as well as Flask. Concatenation in the sense combining the strings. So we have A and B. By using this concatenation, we can combine both the string values. And if a condition is false, then a else block will be executed. If I mention a R mode along with a file, then it is considered by the system as it has to be go with a simple read mode. Hello everyone, I welcome you all to the revision session. Yes, over here my name is Deepa Kutnikar. I am working as an assistant professor at the Department of Computer Science, Vidhyaashram, Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. Today's revision is all about Python programming. Yes, the subject we have selected for today's revision is Python programming, and as we know, it's a fourth semester subject. So let's move forward and let's get started with our question and answers, starting with describe the applications of Python. So these applications of Python can be asked for 5 marks, it can be extended for 8 marks, as well as it can be also asked for 2 marks too. So according to marks, you are supposed to answer the number of points according to the marks allocated. So let's get started and understand what's the answer that you're supposed to write with respect to the applications of Python question. So let me tell you, whenever it goes for 5 marks and the content is small, like we can write the direct points for that. But in order to score exact out of out marks, that is 5 out of 5 for this question, let's get started with the answer. I would like to prefer that instead of just getting started directly with the applications, let's just describe what is this Python, because it's a 5 marks question, right? So we have to add the main content before heading with the applications, okay? If not, if it is for 2 marks or 4 marks, you can directly write the applications of Python, include, yes, write point. Then even for that point, just give a brief answer like what is it all about. Great. So let's get started over here for 5 marks question. The first thing what we have done here is we are defining the Python programming language. Python is a high-level programming language, and along with that, it is an interpreter, as well as we can also consider it under the general purpose programming language because of its usefulness as well as easiness. And we can say that Python is almost used in various applications or various fields. And the main point to note here is Python is popular. Why? Yes, it's popular because of its syntax, then followed by its portability as well as rich library support. So these are the things that makes this Python stand as a general purpose programming language. So now let's get back to our content, that is applications. With respect to applications, the first application what we have considered is an web development. So the web development is possible by using various frameworks like Django as well as Flask. Up next, it is also used for data science as well as analytics. Yes, we can go with data science as well as analytics by using the NumPy as well as the Pandas library set. Alright, the next application, yes, definitely the AI and ML application. So the AI is possible by Python with the support of TensorFlow as well as scikit-learn libraries. Up next, we can also utilize this Python in automation. We can make the complete process automatic as well as scripting. That's by utilizing the task automation as well as file handling. Then Python is also used in game development, and the supporting thing for this game development is a Pygame. So this is a plugin. By using this, we can develop the games easily. Up next, it is also used in desktop as well as the GUI applications. So for this, we will go with the Tinker as well as PyQt libraries. So this are the various applications which we have considered in a brief way here. So with respect to marks, if this is also asked for 8 marks, you can extend the explanation for each of these points. All right, let's go with the next question. That's the second question which is being asked for 10 marks. Here, the question is for explaining the control flow statements. Yes, whatever the programming language we consider, the control statement plays an important role, correct? So let's see the answer for this. The control flow statements exactly determines the order of execution of a program. So that's why we call it as a control flow. It will exactly control the flow of a program or algorithm. Great. In order to control the flow, we need few of the cases, correct? So the types that we use under this control flow statements are none other than starting with a simple if statement. Yes, if statement whenever we have a true statement, okay, when we say yes, this is exactly what I want and this is true, then I can easily go with a if statement. So we can see a simple example written here. We have defined x equals 10, and if x is, as it is greater than 5, it will check for the condition. Yes, if it is greater, it will easily print that the x is greater. Okay. Next, if there exists a true and false cases, then what we have to do? Then we have to go for a simple if else statement. So the second condition statement is a if else statement. Here, if a condition is true, then the if block will execute, and if a condition is false, then a else block will be executed. So that's the hand-in-hand process we can see here. If x mod 2 is equal to 0, then we will be printing it has an even number. And if this is not true, then what has to be printed? Obviously, it will be odd number. So we will take else print odd. Okay. So this is an example for a if else statement. Let's go forward and see the next control statement, that is if, elif and else ladder. So for this individual statements, we have taken the syntax, we have written examples, as well as we have seen the description for this. If you want to learn in deep with this, you have to go back and check the Python programming videos, that is the unit wise videos that we have recorded for you. Great. Now let's continue with this. Let's say an example. We have defined a mark 75 and we have considered the if else as well as elif statements. Now let's start with if marks. Yes, if marks is greater than or equal to 90, then it's supposed to print the grade, A grade. Then elif marks is greater than or equal to 60, then we will be printing it has a B grade. Up next, there are three cases. Okay, the third case is else. If it won't satisfy this if and elif, then definitely the else block will be executed. So that is the C grade. Okay, that is print of C. Great. Now let's understand what is this if, elif and else statement. So whenever we have two conditions, we can easily go with if else statement. And whenever there are multiple cases, okay, or we can say that the case is 3 or more than 8, then we can't go with if else statement only. So there's a case, that is if, elif and else ladder. Here we are considering 3 cases, and for that 3 cases we can easily write the code as a block of codes. Okay, so this is a marks wise grading that we will be following with respect to the examination or allocating the grades for the students. All right, let's move with the next control flow statement, which is none other than a simple for loop. So now when the iterations are more or the number of cases are more, then we can't go with if else or if, elif as well as else statements, then we have to go with some other thing. So what is it? It is none other than the for loop, where we can go with multiple iterations. So how to define that iteration? That's by using a for loop, where we are defining the range of it. If I in the range of 5, then we can print a simple I. The for loop, as we know, it is utilized for multiple iterations. Let's see an example, or you can directly write the syntax, then go with example. Okay, let's see an example. Here we are writing for I in range of 5 and print of I. So this is where we are utilizing 5 different cases. Okay, whenever there are multiple cases, we can easily use this for loop. Great. The next conditional statement is a simple while loop. Whenever we have a multiple cases, okay, we don't know what's the end of that iteration. So we can say that the same thing will be repeated multiple times. in order to do this, we need some loop, correct? The looping statement that we use over here is a while loop. Let's say an example here. We have considered I equals 1 and we are writing while I is less than or equal to 5. So the next thing, the I will be printed continuously and I will be incremented in each step. So this is a continuous process. There will be no end until it gets a stop command. All right, let's head with the next question. It is explain the types of operators. Yeah, this is a next crucial thing after the control statements. So operators, we know we have so much of operators and you can make a good 3 columns for that. One is for writing the names of that operators, then the symbols, then for the same you can write the examples. Okay, so you can follow this, the names of the operators, symbols, then the examples. So according to marks, please be ready to write the things. Okay, great. Operators are nothing but a special symbols that perform operations on the variables. Okay, let's see what are the different types of operators we have. Yes, definitely. The first one is none other than an arithmetic operator, which holds addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, modulus, etc. operators. Next is the relational operator. Whenever we are defining the relation between variables, then we will go with this relational operators, and the operator we utilize here is greater than, less than, equal to, not equal to, etc. The next operator is a logical operator. That's nothing but a logical and, logical or, logical not, etc. The next operator is a assignment operator, equal to, not equal to, plus or equal to, etc. Okay, next is a bitwise operation. So this bitwise operation happens in the machine level thing, and in order to do that we will again going with a and as well as not and or operations, etc. Next we have a identity operator which holds is not. So in order to give the subset relation or a predefined relation, then we can go with a simple identity. Whenever we are defining a identity of a variable which is true, then we will directly go with this identity operator by using is or is not. Great. The next operator is a membership operator, where we will check the membership of the variables by utilizing is it in or is it not included in. So these are the things that we used to do. So these are the various types of operators, and please know to write the examples for each and everything. Just write a statement that arithmetic operator is a type of operator where we will be including basic symbols in order to do the mathematical operations, or in order to do the basic mathematical operations. So in this way, you have to first define what it is and then write its symbols, what are the symbols that are being included, or we can say that the operators that are being included in it. Then finally write a example using these symbols. So that's the thing you're supposed to follow. Now in this revision class, if I do that, then our revision will not be revision, it will be a complete unit classes, or we can say that a complete concept classes that we have already done for you. Okay, so as it's a revision, let's quickly revise the things, what has to be written and how it has to be written. Great, let's move with the next question. Yeah, so this is a program, write a program using else if statement. So I would like to point one thing over here. You people have completed your practical examinations, right? So now for your final theory exams, I have a great hint. Please revise the practical programs, whatever you have studied for your Python programming lab external exams, because the same programs will help you out in writing the theory questions. Yes, this is an added advantage whenever you have a subject which has a practical as well as a theory, then you can easily score, you can maximize your score by adding your understanding, because you have done your labs, correct? And you have completed your lab exams too. Now the thing what you are supposed to do is just revise before your theory exams too, because even it will gain you minimum of 15 marks, because definitely there will be 2 to 4 programs which you can easily correlate with the concepts whatever you have studied in your labs, and you can write the same programs here. Okay. All right, let's see the program using a else if statement. Starting with marks, we have considered a marks as an integer where a user will input his marks. Then I'm writing a if statement where marks is greater than or equal to 90. Yes, if it is greater than 90%, then what is the thing it has to be printed? It has to print as a distinction. Next, elif marks. So we are writing elif statement where we are considering marks. There are 3 subdivisions. So we are defining that marks greater than or equal to 60. If it is 60, we can write it as a first class. And next, we are again considering the elif statement because I have more number of cases, not only 3 cases, that is if, elif, else. I have one more case, so again I can use the same thing, elif statement. Elif marks is greater than or equal to 50, then I can define it as a second class. What if a student won't come under all these 3? Then I have to write a final else statement which it has to print as a fail. So this is a simple example for if else. Again, we can consider this as an example for if, elif and else statements. All right, let's go with the next question. Describe the operations on strings. Let's get started with our answer. Yes, as we know, string is nothing but a complete sequence of characters, right? Now, let's head with the operations the different operations that we can perform on strings are. The first or the initial thing is a concatenation. Concatenation in the sense combining the strings. So we have A and B. By using this concatenation, we can combine both the string values. Then the repetition, okay, here we can see that A into 3, so which gives us a repetition of same letter for 3 times. Up next, indexing. Yes, strings also support indexing, and we know that the indexing will start from a 0 value, correct? Great. Next, string slicing. STR of 1:4. In the sense, let's consider if I have more than 6-letter word, then in that 6-letter word, I just only need the in between letters like from 1 to 4. So that's a slicing. Next one, to see the length of a string. Okay. In order to do that, the keyword we use is length of string. Then the case conversion, what we can expect is convert the strings to uppercase, convert the strings to lowercase, or convert it to the title case, anything we can do. Next, if I want to replace any one of a character inside a string, then I can go with replace of. So in order to do that, I just have to mention the index value along with this replace. All right, next is a membership. So even we can check the string is a member of that variable or not. It is dependent on the user instruction. So over here, we can check that A is present in the string. So all these things can be done. Next question is explain briefly about dictionary. Dictionary in the sense, the main thing that comes into our mind is a key value pair, correct? Now, in that key value pair, we know that the keys are unique and these dictionaries are mutable in the sense any changes if you want to do, then you can do that. Okay, so this is a dictionary. Let's see the features. Yes, as we have mentioned, the dictionaries are mutable as well as the keys are unique. It will not be repeated. Okay, let's see an example over here. Student name that we have considered is named John and we have mentioned his marks. All right, now I have to print in this way, print student of name. Okay, next what we are supposed to mention is student of age. Okay, it's done. And if we run this or if we execute it, we will be getting the answer like student, his age, his marks. So it will be stored in this key value pairs. And the main thing what we can say here is whatever the values we define, those are easily accessible because of the unique keys that we consider. So this is all about a simple dictionary. Let's go with the next question, that is mention the difference between a list and a tuple. Let's see the features based on which the list and tuple or tuples are classified. All right, the first feature that we have to mention here is the mutability. The lists are mutable in the sense whatever the list we have defined, if there is any some small changes or if a user wants to change it, yes, he is supposed to change that. But that's not the case with respect to tuple. Once a user defines that word or a tuple, then it can't be modified or tweaked. Whatever we define once, it is full and final. So it is immutable. Great. The next feature is syntax. Yes, the lists are mentioned inside the square brackets and the tuple are mentioned inside the small braces. Great. Next one, speed. Yes, the speed of list are slow and the speed of tuple are faster. The modifications are allowed with respect to list, but it is not allowed with respect to tuple. So this is the main basic difference. All right, let's go with the next question. Explain file operations, which is being asked for 10 marks. Yes, whenever we define file handling, the main thing that comes is handling a file, in the sense storing information, retrieving information, deleting information, the different things that comes whenever we are working with a file are altogether considered under file handling. Now, in order to do this, we will be taking some helps with the modes. Okay, so if I mention a R mode along with a file, then it is considered by the system as it has to be go with a simple read mode. Next, if there is a W mentioned along with the file, .w mentioned along with the file, then it will go with a write operation. Next, if a file along with .a is being mentioned, then it says that a information of the string has to be appended into it. Now, what are the steps that we are supposed to follow in order to read, append, or write? Yes, initial thing is open a file, okay, then perform the operation, like whatever the operation a user is requesting, he can perform that, then finally he has to close the file. Let's move with an example here. So we have written f equals open of file name .txt comma w. So what does w says? It says, or it indicates, the file should be written. Okay, f dot write, what it has to be written? Hello Python. Okay, once it is been updated, the file has to be closed. So in order to do that, the syntax what we use is f dot close off. Great. Next, in order to read, what is the thing we are following? Yes, it is like f equals open first. Initially, we are opening the file, that's open of file.txt, comma R. So, in which mode it should be? Read mode, correct? So, we have mentioned R. Up next, we are completing the operation, that is a reading operation. Then, lastly, we have to close the file that we have opened. So, this is the case what we have to follow with respect to file handling. All right, the next question is explain inheritance and its type. This can be asked for 7 marks or it can also be asked for 8 or 4 marks. Okay, generally we have considered for 7 marks over here. Inheritance, in the sense the properties are inherited from one base class. So we can say that inheritance allows a class to inherit or to acquire the properties of another class, and the class from which we are taking the properties, that class can be called as a parent class or it can also be called as a base class. Great. So by doing this, what we can expect? Yes, we can expect the code reusability. Next, let's head with the types of inheritance. Yes, we have single inheritance, multiple inheritance. In order to go with single inheritance, yes, you have to describe what it is. Then you have to write a simple syntax with an example. Let's get started with an example. Here we are considering class A, where we are defining show self of. Next, if it is a self, then we are printing a class A. Next, we are checking that we are allowing one more class to take the property. So, which is the new class? It's a B and it's taking the property of A. If it is this, then we can say yes, it is a past thing because it is successfully taking or acquiring the property. The class A's property is being acquired or taken by class B. So this is a single inheritance. Let's go with the next type, that is multiple inheritance. Here, as the name itself says, there will be multiple new classes which are generated. Let's get started. Class A, yes, pass. Class B, okay, even that is mentioned, so we can consider it as a pass. Next, a new class is been generated by taking the properties from both class A and class B. Please note, a new class C is generated by taking the properties of A and B. Thus, class C of A comma B, and we can consider it as a pass one. So this is a simple example for multiple inheritance. Let's move forward with the next question, which says describe SQLite methods. SQLite, as we know, it is a particular database that we have already used in Python in our labs, right? So now let's go with it. SQLite is a lightweight database in Python. Different methods that we can consider with this is connect off in order to initiate a connection between the database. Next, cursor off in order to create a cursor on that page. Next one, execute off, which executes a SQL query. If we have given any query, then if it has to be executed, then this keyword has to be mentioned for sure. Next one is a commit off. Commit off in the sense, whatever the process I have initiated, in that process I have to add some more things. Then I'll go with adding it up, and finally I have to give this commit statement. Once I have defined this commit statement, then the system thinks, okay, the updating process is completed, and this is the final thing which has to be taken it forward. Great. Next one, close off. Close in the sense, the initiated connection, whatever we have initiated, that's by using connect, I'm closing it. So that's the keyword. So these are the various things or the methods that is being included with the SQLite. Let's see an example for this. We are importing this SQLite 3 library. Now we are creating the connection. What is that? SQLite 3.connect off. Which database? Yes, that's test.db, which says database. Next, we are creating a cursor. So connect.cursor off. All right. Up next, I have to go with executing that. What's the thing required? I need to create a table. So I'm mentioning it here. Create table with student ID. We are considering ID has integer and the student's name has a text. Up next, I can write connect.commit saying that yes, I'm full and final satisfied with this. There are no more changes. Up next, the last thing what we are supposed to do is closing that connection. So right, always whenever a simple topic is asked, try to answer it in a way, writing some description for that, then writing syntax and a simple example in this way for the concept. All right, let's head with the next question, which is a data frame operations, which we can expect it for 7 or 8 marks. Over here, we are going with the pandas library. Okay, so this thing we have already done in our labs and even we have studied in our unit 4. If you want to learn more regarding pandas, you have to go back with the unit 4 videos. Great, let's go with this. We are importing the panda file. Using import statement, import pandas as PD. All right. Next, data frame we are creating, that is PD dot data frame of A is to 1, 2 and B is to 3, 4. Next, I am going with a head of a data frame. So we are mentioning that. So this is a basic operation, and next, let's term the operations that can be performed by using pandas. The initial thing what we can do is a selection of a data frame can be done. Next, filtering. Okay, I have selected so much, and out of that I'll be working with only a small portion of it. Okay, so that filtering will be considered or it can be done, and later on aggregating the information all together. So these are the operations that can be expected with respect to pandas library. All right, over here the next question is describe various charts using the pie plot, which can be asked for 8 marks or even 4 or 6 marks. Yes, what are the different charts? Yeah, initially it starts with the basic line chart, then a good bar chart, then we will be getting the histograms, then a simple pie chart. These are the various charts that we can write by using the library, that is a simple matplotlib.pyplot. So this is a library. Okay. Now line chart, I believe we know that it will be in this format. Next, a bar chart. How will be bar chart? Yes, it will be in the form of a bars. And the pie chart, yes, we know that it will be in this form, circular form. Next, the histogram. Like if I start with a bar, then it will be continuing. It will touch the end once it is completed with its operation. Please note the change or the difference between a simple bar graph and a histogram. Okay. All right. Over here, we have a simple example where we are importing the library and we are defining the points that we have to mention, that is plot. Dot plot of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We are defining x and y values. Then finally, plot show. Show is written to display the output in a graphical way. All right. So till here, whatever we have discussed, we can expect this for higher marks like 5 marks, 6, 7 or 8 marks. The things what we are heading with is for 2 marks. We can expect the next questions for 2 marks. It's not that it can't be for 8 or 7 marks. The first thing is define the following. So what are the things? First thing is range. Range of is a keyword that is utilized to generate the sequences. For example, range of 5. And by giving this keyword, it will automatically generate a sequence of 5 numbers. Up next, indentation. Indentation is very, very important with respect to Python, because this Python will run if and only if the indentation is proper. Indentation, in simple words, it is nothing but we'll start writing the import statement, then print statement, then if I go with any conditional statement or looping statement, then I have to give a tab space. Like for example, if I am writing if statement, then I have to give a tab space, then start with if followed by the condition, whatever I'll be writing it inside. So up next, I'll be writing the if statement. Next to that, I'll be using a print statement. Again, I have to give a small gap in it or a tab space for that as well. So this giving the spaces and making the separation between the main file and the next conditions what we have created can be called as a simple indentation. And in other words, we can say that indentation defines the blocks structure. Next, type conversion. Yes, if I want to convert from one data type to another, for example, from int to any other data type or from float to other, we will be going with the type conversion. So the keywords what we can be considered is int or float of etc. The next thing is raw strings. Raw strings are some file formats or some characters that are considered as it is from the user, and we will go ahead with operations based on it itself. There is no scope of modification for this. The next one, format identifiers. Format identifiers in the sense we will be writing the print statement. So we can correlate this with our C programming or the C language. So do you remember we will be writing printf statement using this %d, %f and s. Yes, it's the same thing here. %d for integer, %f for float values, and %s if it is a string values. All right, let's go with the next question, that is describe the scope and lifetime of variables. Variable, we know that it's a space where we will be storing some information, and with respect to this variable we have types like local variable and global variables. Local variables in the sense the variables that we use inside the program, but The global variables in the sense the variables that we define at the initial part of the program, and we will be using it, or will be calling it inside the program again and again instead of defining it in a multiple time. Okay, so that is the global variable declared outside of the function. Next, the lifetime. The lifetime of this variable depends on the execution scopes. Example, x equals 10. So this is before the function and this is a global variable. Okay, next, once after defining the function, we are defining a variable, that is y equals 5, and this is a simple example for our local variable. The next question is, write an example program for NumPy array. Again, NumPy is a library that we are supposed to import it. Import NumPy as NP. Up next, we are giving array equals NP of array. We are defining the array over here, okay? Not a simple array, it is a NumPy array. So we are writing it as NP dot. Finally, we are printing array plus 2. All right, let's go with the next question. Describe the various set methods. Yes, the various set methods that we have is add of, remove of, union of sets, etc. Correct? Okay, for add of, we will be using add of keyword, then remove of keyword, union of, intersection of. So these are the various set methods, correct? So these are the operations that we will do whenever we go with sets. Let's say an example, s equals 1, 2, 3. So we are defining a set. As we can note, the set is being defined inside the flower brackets. Great. The next, I'm using a method that is set dot add of 4, and the next method, if I want to remove anything, I can do that s dot remove of 2. So in this way, I can mention various methods according to user's requirement. All right, let's head up with the next question, that is describe basic layout management types in Tinker module. So this is very useful module whenever you go with a real-time operations. Okay, let's see the layout manager types. So whenever we are heading with designing a web pages or any of the web applications or simple applications or games, we will be dealing with all these things. In the sense, we will be having a pack which says that all the elements are placed inside a window. Okay, if I'm designing a window or a web page, then a simple block, text field, various patterns, what are there are filled, and there is no scope of updating now. So I'll pack this layout. So for that, I'll be using pack, and then in order to go with grid, we'll be going with grid whenever we are supposed to define any of the value with a statistical information. Statistical information in the sense which includes the information in the form of a rows as well as the columns. Okay, if I want to mention the rows and columns inside here, inside my application, then I can easily go with the grid. Then place. By using this place, I can exactly give the position inside a complete window. In the sense, I can define the x and y coordinates so that the text field or whatever I want to fix, it will be fixed in that place itself. Let's say in simple example program, I am importing the Tinker module. So from Tinker import root. Root is a keyword which is used to call the Tinker function. Okay. Next, label. Yes, what are the different things I'm supposed to include in it? Yeah, I can do that. Label of root, comma, text hello. And please note, this is the thing what I am supposed to do. Up next, I will fix it by writing dot pack off. Then next, we will be heading with the main loop, root dot main loop off. So this is a layout management that we can fix according to users' requirement. So this was all about today's session, the revision session. I hope it will be useful for you. Students, I would like to point two main things over here which will be very helpful for your exams. Okay, whenever you're learning this programming languages, okay, then the format what you're supposed to follow is first write the description of what they have asked. Next, write the figure. If any diagram is there which you can write, yes, please write it down. Then later write 2 sentences according to the figure what you have done. Up next, write the syntax for that, and later write an example including the mentioned things. So this is the format. If you follow this format, you can easily score more marks. Okay. Next main thing is, as I have already mentioned, please study your lab programs. Read the lab programs along with your program as well as the output. If you write program and write expected output for asked questions, you can easily pass this subject with a very good marks. Okay. So hoping and wishing all the very best for you guys. Thank you.